Next government witness.
The government calls Dr. Dawn Hughes. What is your profession?
Clinical and forensic psychology. I treated people who were in World War II, which was such an honor.
How many times have you testified in court?
60 or 65 in SDNY, ENDY, and the Northern District. Also New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, Virginia.
We offer Dr. Hughes as an expert.
No objection.
What do you anticipate covering?
Why victims stay, memory?
Have you been retained by the government?
Yes.
What is your hourly rate?
$600, $6,000 for the day in court.
Why do victims stay?
There are psychological bonds and the psychological consequences of the abuse.
What are the levels of fear?
It ranges from physical violence to butterflies. Violence doesn't have to happen all the time.
What is psychological violence?
Intimidation, throwing things, telling you what you can do and where you can go.
Objection!
Hold on. I'm going to strike that last answer.
What can be the role of sexual abuse?
It puts the victim in significant psychological fear.
Why does it prevent leaving?
Shame, degradation, they don't want to think about it.
What is emotional abuse?
Putting down our partner, feeling like a piece of crap.
What about financial dependence?
The abuser controls housing and transportation, taking away her laptop.
Objection!
Sustained.
Are you familiar with love bombing?
That honeymoon phase, the abuser showers her with gifts and affection to get her back.
Does the attempt to leave happen over time?
Yes, it takes multiple attempts.
Which is the most common coping mechanism?
Trying to work it out because of the trauma bond. You don't want to lose your partner.
Personal coping mechanisms. How does placating or appeasing work?
We're trying to avoid abuse.
What is minimization?
The victim says maybe they had a bad day at work. Maybe they were intoxicated. It's a way to stay in the relationship, but it increases their risk. It's not a long-term strategy. It gets from one assaultive episode to next.
What about the power relation?
A person can have power as principal of a school. The victim asks, who is going to believe me?
When does the victim finally speak?
In a safe environment, or after psychological help.
What type of language do victims use when they first speak of it?
They minimize. They are piecemeal. They remember the chipping paint on the ceiling, the smell of alcohol on the perpetrator's breath.
There's a short sidebar and then a cross-examination from Combs' lawyer, Jonathan Bach.
Your clients, you observe them closely, their cognitive style.
Yes.
People don't fit into boxes, right?
There are categories.
But you have to listen to particular individuals, right?
I'm not divorced from my training.
When you do forensic work, you want a lot of sources of information, right?
If it's relevant.
You look at police reports, witness reports, and the like, correct?
Correct.
You're familiar with malingering?
I am.
People can fabricate emotional responses, correct?
They can.
Mr. Bach, should we break here?
I don't have a good cliffhanger.
Break.
After a break, they return to the courtroom.
Your Honor, we emailed you the exhibit over the break.
We object to it as hearsay. The statement, "Thank I feel you" from Mr. Combs is ambiguous. He could be saying thanks for the advice.
We'll pick it up after Dr. Hughes. Please get her back on the stand.
The witness and the jury proceed to enter.
You are with the American Psychological Association, which says you should only render an opinion after an examination, right?
Where? This is a different role.
You have not gathered information about this case, right?
I am not rendering an opinion on any individual.
There's someone named Cassie, but you don't know what she said, right?
I don't.
You're testified across the river in EDNY, right?
Right.
And you say the same thing, even though the cases are different, correct?
It's to help the jurors understand.
But it's their job to consider their case, right? You don't publish data on the patients you have evaluated, do you?
It's confidential.
So I can't cross-check your experience, the basis of what you were saying, right? People might go to a civil lawyer to make a little money, right?
Objection!
Let's move on.
In civil litigation, you might look for malingering, right? You gave a webinar about giving expert witness testimony, right?
Yes, for battered women.
Let me show you, DX.
Sidebar.
During the short sidebar, here is the exhibit from the Star Island raid of Diddy's mansion. This photo showcases baby oil and glide.
Jurors, we're going to send you to the jury room for a bit.
The jurors leave the room.
Yesterday, Ms. Shapiro submitted an exhibit. X part. Now, reviewing a document. What should I focus on?
It shouldn't show this witness has a bias.
She can be shown the document about training domestic violence advocates and asked if she remembers. But I won't admit it as evidence until she denied it and it becomes prior inconsistent statement.
The witness enters the room, then the jury also re-enters.
Does this document refresh your recollection?
Let me look at it more closely. Yes.
The fourth part is about navigating cross-examination, right?
Yes.
Most of your income comes from court-related work, right?
No, maybe half.
You've raised your rate to $600,
It's been the same for some time.
but you've raised it.
Commensurate with others.
You've been retained hundreds of times. But you've never come into court and testified in defense of a man accused of a sex crime?
That's correct. I don't evaluate offenders.
You met with the prosecutors 6 times to prepare your testimony, right?
Correct.
Can we have a sidebar?
You may.
After a short sidebar, they return.
Did you discuss the topics with the prosecutors?
With all due respect, it was mostly me educating them.
But you know nothing about the case. Were you advising them on how to present evidence in domestic violence cases? Didn't you help them write briefs?
Can we have a sidebar?
Yes, but I'll keep it brief. Shorter than the last.
There is a sidebar, which was not shorter than the last.
Sorry that it wasn't shorter. Ms. Steiner?
You reviewed some filings to the court in this case. It was all related to the subject of your expert testimony, right?
Correct.
In fact, we redacted.
You did.
You are a board-certified forensic psychologist, right?
Yes.
How many of those are there in New York State?
I think about 40.
Recross.
Your defense work is almost entirely for victims of domestic violence, right?
I'm not sure that's true.
You worked with Mr. Brian Steele, who was defending a woman charged with reacting to domestic violence, right?
Yes.
And Mr. Steele decided not to use you after meeting with you.
Move on.
No further questions.
Next witness?
The government calls George Kaplan. When did you work for Combs Enterprises?
2013 to 2015.
What fell under that holding company?
Clothing, liquor, entertainment. I was executive assistant to the chief operating officer.
Where did you work?
1710 Broadway NYC.
What was your next position?
Executive assistant to the chairman, Mr. Combs, from September 2014 to September 2015.
Who did you report to?
Ms. Coram, KK. She essentially ran Mr. Combs' life.
Where did you report?
LA.
What did you do?
Carried his bags, made such things were when he wanted them. As he trusted me more, he had me around more. I'd set up hotel rooms.
How many hours a week?
80 to 100 hours a week.
How much did you get paid?
$125,000 a year to start.
What did you do in the morning?
Make sure everything was in the bathroom, the breakfast cooked. He was recording a mixtape, so we worked late.
Who was security?
Uncle Paulie, D-Rock, and Ruben. Later, licensed security in the second half of 2015.
How frequently did you communicate with Mr. Combs?
Multiple times a day, things could be found in the back. An iPad, drugs, whatever.
Did he threaten you?
He threatened my job.
How often?
Maybe monthly, he'd say he was only to be surrounded by the best people and that he wasn't. For example, he went me for a 1-liter water and I bought back 2 half-liters. He said no.
How did you travel?
On his jet, or going in advice to make sure it's all set up.
How did you set up hotel rooms?
There was a bag. I unpacked it. Clothes, candle, Astroglide, baby oil.
Who bought this?
Often me.
In what cities did you set up hotel rooms?
LA, NY, and Miami. In LA, Mr. C, Bel Air, the Intercontinental.
In New York?
Trump by Columbus Circle. In Miami, the SLS.
How was it booked?
Frank Black, based on Biggie's Frank White.
Would you clean up rooms?
Yes, bottles of baby oil, Gatorade, once brown crystallized powder on the counter of the bathroom sink.
Why did you clean up, not hotel staff?
It was implied, protect his public image. I was keen on doing that.
Explain.
Objection!
Overruled.
I found hotels would sell photos to newspapers to shame guests.
Did he reach out to you from the room?
For food, clothes, sometimes drugs. I did it.
What drugs?
Doc kid.
Illegal drugs.
I object to the term illegal.
What other drugs?
Advil, ketamine.
What's he ask for?
I picked up drugs for him. EA.
Who asked?
Mr. Combs, in LA and Miami. In Miami, Mr. Combs asked me to call a person. He came and gave me a bag of pills. MDMA, I gave him cash. I gave the pills to Mr. Combs.
And in LA?
I went out and met the person in Hollywood. I gave money, he gave me a bag.
We'll break for the day.